We are back and ready to start season 4 of We Do a Little Pod. We spent a week in mid-January recording the next batch episodes, and we'll be dropping one a week like usual for the next few months. We'll have a $5 base edition for this season live in the upcoming weeks, open for the length of the season. Similar to last season, each edition will be burnable for a piece of art based off of our conversations. Without further ado, let's jump into episode 1 of season 4 with Nick and Pio from Nifty Portal and BoDoggos. Nick and Pio are some of the most dedicated grinders we know in the media space. On top of building their business and brand, they've been hosting daily morning shows for a few years while putting out hilarious content around the spectacles happening in the cryptocurrency space. We tap into Nick and Pio's lives before working together, how they met, their respective inspirations, how they've strategically grown the Nifty Portal team, and so much more. As always, this podcast is for entertainment purposes only and should not be relied upon for investment decisions. NFTs and guests may own NFTs discussed.
This is Andy. Yeah, I'm Beans.
All right, we're here. Last episode of the week. Very special episode. We have a phantom guest who is walking his dog right now, and he might join us in a little bit. But right now, we're joined with Nick of Nick and Pio. And
That's the name of our business.
Nick and Pio?
No.
Or Nick of.
But yeah, I thought that.
But Nick, dude, thank you for coming here. Thank you for being on time.
Thanks for having
us. Thank you for vibing with us. We've been, shooting the shit for the last half hour. And we're like, yeah, let's just fucking rip the podcast open.
Well, Pio's just showing up late, just disrespectful.
Oh, dude, it's fine.
It's clear. No, we need to acknowledge the fact that was just disrespectful. Okay, like so.
I just messaged me 7 minutes after the pod was supposed to start. Can I bring my dog? And we're at a hotel suite. Like, I don't think we can bring the dog. And then we ask you, what is the dog? You're like, it's a pit bull. And I'm like, I can't.
Well, for context, for the people that are listening or not seeing visually, because even if they're watching it on video, they don't see the setup. There's literally 4 tripods, a C-stand, cables all over the place. It's just not a setup for
a dog.
For dogs.
For a pit bull.
for a rambunctious pet. Yeah.
But we were talking about Nick's prolific use of Facebook and his even more prolific reporting on the front lines of all things Facebook news.
Yeah.
I think we should just dive into how did the segue go from, you were talking about those groups of people investing in each other's conglomerates or opportunities, and you saw some of them were interested in the crypto space, and you're like, oh shit, there's some untapped potential here. What did that look like for you going from full-time Facebook reporter to coming on board?
There were many years, almost 10 years between selling my blog and getting to this point. But there was a pattern that existed. I was completely burnt out from blogging. I was telling you guys earlier that I wrote 3,700 articles basically in a year and a half. And that was just exhausting. Maybe it was 2 years, but whatever the duration was, it was I was just writing nonstop. I got decent at writing at that point in time, but I completely burnt out. The reason I had gotten into that, because people were like, why don't you start a business? You know how to code. You could go build something. And I was like, I have no idea what that even means. I just have
Learn how to code.
Well, even if I have code, what is a bit? I don't understand. People are building apps on Facebook where you throw poop at each other. How does that manifest into a business? Can you explain that to me? And I'd ask those questions at conferences, and people the people would laugh, and they'd be like, oh, that's funny. But I'm like, no. But seriously, I want to understand what's the value.
I want to make money making apps where people throw poop at each other.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, and now Pio's arriving, so he's knocking. But I'll just finish the story. So the seeing how they were operating from an entrepreneurial standpoint was so key.
We're now here with Nick and Pio. Both of them are here, not just Nick. So thank you for coming, by the way.
Thanks for having me. My pleasure.
I appreciate it. We've been doing the IRL pod. They hit way different than the virtual only pods. And this is our last one of the week. So it's a joy to be able to spend this time with you, learn more about where you came from, where you're going, learn more about Nick grinding the shit out of Facebook. And we were talking about how Nick found opportunity in crypto from all the time that he spent in Facebook. And that's about where we were when you walked in.
Very cool. Yeah, I actually don't even do the In Real Life podcast that often. We should do them more for sure. They're
you guys are both
super
here.
Cool. Yeah, absolutely.
Fucking get. You'll see at the end of this, 2 hours will fly by, and you'll be like, oh, holy shit, that was fast. But
oh yeah,
Nick, what were you doing
Well,
10 years. 10 years.
What I was doing for 4 or 5 years was depression. Then there was, and then the subsequent 5 years trying to make it again after recovering from burnout and depression. But the thing I was going to say is basically what I saw. I met a bunch of people through that whole process, and the synopsis of that whole thing was, I didn't understand entrepreneurship. I just knew that I wanted to do it. And so that whole publishing business, which turned out to be an entrepreneurial endeavor, was really motivated to learn about entrepreneurship. And so through that process, I ended up with what I'd say is mentors. Everyone's like, if you consume info marketing, self-help stuff, they're like, you need to get a mentor. It's not like you need to go and be like, hi, John, will you be my mentor? It's literally like learning from a bunch of people. And that's what happened during that time. And so a pattern emerged this time back in 2021. I saw a lot of the people, Gary Vee, Mike Lazaro. I had a call with some other friends who were from like ex-Facebook, who were like building startups in the space. And it was like, okay, this is no longer just random opportunistic grifters, basically, who don't want to actually build something, but just want to take money out of the ecosystem. There's actually people in here who I've seen spend 5-10 years building something. And that was why I mentioned like seeing that pattern just gave me reassurance that this isn't just another one-time thing, like the ICO boom where like 99% of those businesses were just complete scams.
The Bitcoin. Have you seen Bitcoin on Netflix yet?
I have seen that, yeah.
That's the perfect explanation of every ICO that came out during that time. It was like, we had no idea. We were running another business that was losing money. We figured, fuck it. Like, let's just raise a coin. We'll make up something. We'll copy someone else's white paper and just put our name in it and like start an investor Slack and people will buy this shit. Yeah. And then like that was normal. And then everything rugged and it was like, what do we do now?
It makes me wonder though, like why sometimes I actually focus on legitimate stuff, like because there's so many people that I've met who are just straight up scam artists, successful scam artists. And it's like, yo, you didn't have to do anything. You didn't have to put in all of the work that we did. I mean, you did launch a website, but like, that's what you did. Like you launched a website and then it's like, oh, you suddenly made $15 million. That's fucking awesome. That's like the best deal ever. That's like the pinnacle of success. Like
launch a website.
$15 million website.
Exactly, dude. That's incredible. How the hell can I do that? Me and Pio are over here just working our faces off, like trying to figure like over every single nuance of the business. And it's like, why are we stressing when all those people get to just chill?
So kind of going back to you two, how did you meet? Like what time frame did you meet? And then how long did it take from when you met to when you were like, oh, we're going to like go in business together? Like, we're maybe a yin and yang, some of my strengths, accent, his weaknesses, some of his strengths, accent, your weaknesses, whatever.
Yeah, so we can talk about the origin story. Just two things on that. I said to Nick the other day, just on the stuff that you were just talking about like why we're working so hard. I said like, I'd imagine Brian Armstrong probably felt some type of way when he was like building Coinbase to be like the best United States crypto company when all the ICO stuff was happening and all the stuff before that. Then the other thing is I wasn't around during the ICO era. I know you two both were, and I'm assuming you were too. Yeah. But I've heard people recently say like these stories to me where they'll be like at an event or something, they'll be like, yeah, we were just about to launch a coin and then like the bear market hit in 2017. He's like, we were so close. And in my head, I'm like, so you were so close and you're like regretting not launching a scam. You know what I mean? Like he's literally like, he's like, dude, you have no idea. We were so close, man. It could have all been different. I could have got the scam out the door before the market crash, So it's just funny that even guys years later will say that to my face as if I'm going to be like, dude, wish you could have launched that scam.
What could have been?
What could have been? You could have had a bunch of money and basically nothing else is different, But anyway, me and Nick met because our third co-founder, Kix is his new name, which by the way, his name is Kix purely because during the ENS craze, everyone wanted 3 character ENSs, and he happened to find kicks.eth. And in typical crypto investor fashion, he decided to architect his entire online persona about it to pump the price of kicks.eth.
That's smart.
That's smart. That's smart.
He never sold it.
Yeah, but he could one day.
Yes,
Next cycle. It's
Think
a
about the
long play.
lore.
It's the definition of a long play.
That's
but,
at what's his name? Speculator art. Or?
exactly. So formerly sophisticated art speculator.
Here's the
Totally-
man. I've known him for a very long time. I'm sure you guys don't know this. I met my old co-founder and current co-founder in the same like DGen Slack chat that he was in.
Wow.
And so we've been friends. Like I've known him since like mid 2020. We were degenning on DeFi stuff, doing all these like yield farming plays and all of that. And I met like a lot of my really good friends in crypto in that chat, and he was one of them.
Yeah, he was early, and I feel like a lot of people, like last bull run, he did really well, and I think part of it was being in chats like that. He had a lot of swings, and he was down to like let 100K fly.
Yeah.
I think before a lot of like other people were, you know what I mean? Like,
Dude, in the Meebits Discord, I remember him just like taking swings, and I was like, "What is going on, dude? Like, where did this come from? Like, I didn't realize you had that much money to throw around." But he was just willing to literally gamble at that level.
Well, so yeah, it was like do you guys remember Blue Kirby? The like, it might have been.
I remember him mentioning the name. Yeah.
Yeah, it might have been if you weren't around in that period of time, probably before your time. But so he kind of made a name for himself with YFI, back when that farming all happened and everything. And so I got added to this chat because Blue Kirby was trying to ape into a DeFi project that didn't have a front end yet. And since I do smart contracts, I DM'd him and I was like, yo, I can do this for you. Like, just, I'll set up a new wallet. You send me the money. I'll do it. And I had enough of my reputation on the line that I wasn't going to rug him. And so I do this. And he was like, I got this chat full of degens. We need people who understand how smart contracts work. You want to come help us? And I was like, yeah, sure. That's where I met him. Oh, man. The good old days.
That's awesome.
He's a legend, and he introduced us, and me and Nick hit it off right away. I was working with these other guys, and the relationship wasn't that great at that point. It had started strong, but basically, I was really working hard for that media business, and one of the other guys was really working hard, but the other guys weren't really working that hard. And I've actually heard this in crypto a bunch of times where it's like, oh, I had like someone that I partnered with, and they ended up just kind of not continuing to work.
That's just entrepreneurship.
Right, exactly. And I feel like it's, amplified in crypto. And so I chatted with Nick, and we were fast friends. I remember on our very first call, Nick, I was like, or we were talking about doing a Twitter space, and Nick was like, well, I'm at the beach this week. Let's do it next week. And this was really early in the call. And I knew Nick was from New York, and I told him that I lived in New York. And I was like, oh, are you at the Hamptons? Because a lot of people in New York go to the Hamptons and stuff. And Nick just goes, no. And like right there, I was like, this guy's sense of humor is like right on my alley, because it's like that. No, for people that don't know, the Hamptons is expensive as hell. So that's Nick saying, no, I'm at a shittier beach than the Hamptons.
What beach were you at?
Next to Rockaway, called Breezy Point.
Yeah.
Okay. My ex they had 2 houses actually across the sidewalk. Her brother had purchased a house there, and then the mom had a house right there. So it was really nice. It was still a nice neighborhood, and honestly, it felt. I didn't go to the Hamptons until last summer. I went there for I forget the name of the island in the there's an island in the middle that you can go to, but we went and stayed there, and dude, the Hamptons is just a totally different situation. Driving around, $40 million houses and like the hedges of how the houses is incredible to see. But it's just a completely different.
To be honest, I don't really like the Hamptons that much.
Yeah.
I feel like the food there is not very good. The like people there are all pieces of shit.
He's not kidding.
And it's like I can go to the beach with assholes anywhere. I don't need to fucking drive 4 hours out of the city for it. Like, I don't know. I'm not a huge fan.
It's very much so a New York vacation place.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's a New York vacation scene.
Exactly. I forgot about that component. I went over the summer and I wore like summery stuff that you'd wear to like Cape Cod or like maybe the Poconos or one of these places. My friend basically called me like an asshole. He's like, dude, you should have worn your like going out in New York clothes. I was like, I didn't think of that. Like I didn't think
I only got one speed. It's like I wear the same thing everywhere. There's no going out in New York is a summer trip to the Hamptons. It's the same thing. We tried to get into one place in New York, and they looked at these pants and they're like, you can't go in wearing joggers. And I'm like, what do you mean? It's like, it's all I got. And then I couldn't go in. It was a whole fucking thing. But never in my life have I experienced that, because I just show up.
My favorite thing with the Hamptons, I've only been a couple times. We went for a friend's birthday, and I feel like this experience to me really like kind of like is emblematic of the Hamptons. We're at this like, you know, the nicest restaurant you can go to in Southampton, which honestly was not very good. And we're sitting down like a big group for like one of the girls' birthdays, and we all order whatever. They make the food. They bring out everyone's food, but they don't bring out one girl's plate. And she's like, excuse me, like I don't think my food came out with everyone else's. And they go, oh yeah, we're out of what you ordered. And she goes, you didn't want to fucking tell me that you were out of it? And they're like, I don't know. We didn't think to. And so
we were just thinking that you should go fuck yourself.
They were like, maybe we just thought you shouldn't eat tonight. But that to me, like, it's a random story, but it's just, if that's how I feel the Hamptons are in general as a place.
Dude, well, going to a restaurant that has quality service is a whole other story. I also think like New Yorkers in particular, we're all very sensitive to the situation because you have so many options that when you go to a place, if you don't get the experience that you're looking for, and after you've gone to a place where you really enjoyed it, especially like, well, I'm not drinking this here, but the if you have the tasting menu and you have the wine pairing to go with it, and you have this like magnificent dinner experience, now everything is benchmarked against that like that place that you're at, and you're like, and that's what the difference is between this 3 Michelin star place and this normal place that I'm going to. But even the normal places, sometimes at least like there's the comfort places that always just are a reliable spot. I feel like a lot of people outside of big cities like don't have the same like bar / expectation of what they're getting out of a place.
And some of the stuff I think in New York is just so overhyped. Like people be like, oh, you gotta fucking have this thing. Like take the train, get off that train, go on another train, then there's gonna be a trolley, and then you're gonna get on a rickshaw, and then you're gonna go over a bridge, and then on this island, you go into a speakeasy, and then you open up a hidden door, and it's like the best pizza you've ever had in your life, and you gotta try it. And I'm like, probably just gonna get Lindustry delivered, or like I'll fucking eat Joe's. Like I don't really need that experience. But going back to how
we got very off topic there.
No,
that was
the in-person pod. This is Nick's specialty.
This should just be called the ADHD podcast because that was good.
So you meet, you're
like,
not in the Hamptons.
You couldn't convince him to on his vacation start a Twitter space. You're like, okay, next week.
Well, one detail actually from before is that I was just trying to connect with everybody in the space. I got a slower start on the social media side, and so I was catching up a little bit. And I asked Kick Speculator to introduce me to Nick, and he introduced us right away. And I was like, "Yo, man, we should totally like do something." And Nick was kind of like,
I was flaky.
He was like, "Okay, I don't know about that."
No, the reason for the flakiness was because there were other people I had spoken to. I'd gone through a content cycle before, like we were discussing, and after going through and I'm like, I don't think people realize how much work goes into that stuff. And there's a very limited set of people that are going to put in that level of effort in that one specialized area. And so there's people that like, everyone wants to be like a content creator, but not everyone wants to put in the level of work that's required in order to become prolific and to grow an audience. And that it just takes years literally to like go build that up over time. And no one's like most people are not thinking from that perspective. And it's hard when you first meet someone to make any sort of assessment of what their long-term viability is of somebody. So it wasn't necessarily, Pio was doing a great job on YouTube and I wasn't creating YouTube. And I was like, look, YouTube is definitely a channel that we need to be operating in, or like, at least by me, it was just me at that time, just doing my own podcast. And, speaking with Pio, I was like, look, it's clear that he has an on-camera presence. It's clear that he understands how to like do interviews and everything else. So he has talent. But what I had no idea was whether or not he would like keep going with this thing. And what I saw was him single-handedly basically building traction for this channel that he was working on. So definitively at that point, I'm like, all right, well, this guy legit is qualified in order to do this. Because I had another guy that was like, yo, I want to do YouTube for you. He had 2 videos on his channel. So I'm like, well, what the hell? You're talking about dreams, man. Like you're telling me that like I want to be an engineer. Well, cool. Have you written code? No. So why the hell am I going to hire you? Like that just doesn't make any sense. It's like I appreciate that you have a dream and aspiration, but I'm not here to teach you how to like do that particular thing. So like Pio can operate on his own when it comes to content. I think both of us have the ability to do that. And so it's like, look, if that's the foundation of what's being built. And then we chatted, we had a good conversation, and we were like, hey, let's experiment with the spaces. And the spaces started getting traction, and we're like, okay. So it just very quickly, I think, ramped up from there.
What YouTube channel were you working on before?
I mean, can you bleep it out? I don't want to like.
Wow,
yeah,
it was
yeah.
called.
Yeah. You
Yeah.
can,
They're still growing actually from a website standpoint. They focused heavily on the blog side. I have been observing them from that standpoint because when it comes to website slash brand traffic, I'm like obsessed with all those things, obviously from like the blogging days. So I go to like SimilarWeb, for example, and I look up each of the sites and I see how they're doing and where their traffic's coming from and everything else to get like an assessment of like how big really is this site. So they seem to pivot from the video. They still have video podcasting, but what they really became was like one of the press release sites. There's NFT Evening is another one of these that exists. And then there's, I'm blanking on there's a number of these that like are sort of aggregators of crypto and NFT related content. So they're still around. It's just, I think they're different because they lost their main video person, which was Pio in this case.
it's very rare that you have somebody who not only is good presence in front of a microphone, but also has all the back end knowledge of like, not only how do I produce this and get this out there, but like, how do you grow it? Like, how do you play the game? Like titling, thumbnail, like all the little shit that makes a big difference.
And I wasn't good at that at that time, but I just was so focused on like make a good product that it started to come along. Nick's who really kind of got on me about the optimization side, and I'm really glad that he did. I honestly was approaching the video stuff really from like an artist perspective. I had studied, the music industry, the film industry for a long time. And if you listen to like someone like Drake, like I remember an interview with Drake, like probably at this point over a decade ago, where someone asked him like, well, if someone's trying to get into the music industry, what should they do? And his response was like, just make a really, really, really good set of songs. Like that's just the answer. And he's right. But like as social media becomes more and more relevant, you have to have the optimization stuff. Our YouTube channel would not have the subscriber base that it has now. Probably wouldn't even have 25% of it if we didn't practice modern social media optimization.
And it's a big thing. Like you look at our YouTube numbers, they're super low. Like I am not crushing that game. And like it's I have a lot of respect for the people who do it and do it well. Like listen to Mr. Beast talk on a lot of podcasts and he gives a bunch of, I think, good advice. But like people don't realize all the thought that goes into it outside. Like even when Nick was saying, we're looking down when the stream starts and we don't want people in the first 30 seconds. Like it was before you got here, he was talking a little bit about how like just a recent tweak they're making, you're looking down, it starts, and then for the first 30 seconds, you might not be like fully dialed in. And he's like, hey, people are going to look at this and this might be their first time. Like, say you get 10 new viewers on this video. The first 30 seconds, if you're like looking down and you're not like directly making eye contact, like directly engaged, like with a good hook, getting their attention, it's like you lose it.
Well, and we're not embracing all of those things right now. It's more aspirational. Some of the things that I see from like just as a consumer of our own content, observing our own content, you got to ask that question and be basically brutally honest when you go look at it and tear it apart to be like, am I actually doing a good job with what I'm doing? And really, in social media, it's a world where the numbers are the thing, is the game that you're in. Crypto is a weird one because it's a very valuable niche that exists. So like there's a lot of brands that are willing to spend money despite the audience size not being like a billion people that are like Mr. Beast is in a different category.
Oh yeah, he's
and
in his
so
own category.
Well, he's a different category than basically everybody. But I think that from that standpoint, the optimization is key. I want to make one comment about it because I've been observing this. So Rob Deerdeck, who did Robin Big and also Rob's Fantasy Factory and did DC Shoes and all this other stuff and runs SLS, the skateboarding street competition. I went back and watched some of his videos that were on MTV and they were really funny. It's really good. It's entertaining to observe, but it's way more like Netflix content. I don't know if it would do as well it does do well on YouTube now for people that have nostalgia. Memories of it. But
if it was just getting started out now.
Exactly. I was like, would this format work? The thesis works. The editing would be different basically. So like he goes, I sent Pio a clip where he jumps off the second floor of his apartment, lands on the couch, boom, back like next to another guy. It's an incredible clip. Boom, they'd cut to the next thing. And now you'd have more action like going on in that next scene that's bringing you to this place. TV was way more creative at that moment in time because there is no competition back, early 90s, mid 90s, basically. You don't have social media competing for that. Like I need the most crack-headed content that I can have because, oh, that's boring, put it down. And that's the way consumers are operating now. Is like they look at it, boom, down. Like I'm not paying attention. So you have to suddenly like optimize everything because they're consuming that. And now they're watching your TV show. If the TV show is not keeping you engaged at every minute, I'm just tuning out the thing basically is kind of, so that's what the competition is. So you have to think about that.
So when you were getting into the early spaces and hosting those together, was it like a trial run of like, hey, let's try like we do one a day for a month or something? Like how did that turn into like every day we're here, rain or shine?
I think that the way I remember it is we did one and we really enjoyed it and we thought it went well. And then maybe I remember like there wasn't a plan for the next day or something, but then Nick would text me and be like, want to do one today? And I'd be like, yeah. And then before you know it, I think our original little plan was like Monday, Wednesday, Friday. This is like in week 2. You know what I mean? Like week 2.
But just having fun.
And by week like 2.5 or 3, we were just like, yeah, we're fucking doing this every day, you know? So yeah.
And then have you been basically like every day since for like over 2 years?
Well, it was, let's start. So there was a business that I had wanted to do a business before. I'd set up the nifty.com and I had some stats. I'd been using OpenSea's API at that time to like get data and aggregate it and track things. And I had like a picture of basically doing what I'd done for Facebook before. I had an aggregated site where you could see every single Facebook page, every single Facebook app, stats on each of those different things, then news pertaining to it. So it was like a content hub when it came to that particular vertical. And so we were chatting, we started experimenting with the show, and I was like, we were discussing, I don't remember what the initial comment was around the formation of the business, like the corporation itself, but I had another entity that I ended up running everything through and shutting down that year and just rolled everything pertaining to this. We started a new business entity and raised a little bit of money. And like just 1.1 million. I went and looked back at it yesterday. So we raised a little bit of money and we're like, okay, let's go all in. By January, Pio.
I quit my job in February. Which I should have quit it like in January.
I remember.
I mean, you like the safety though. It's like nice to know, like, hey, every 2 weeks I got this thing. Like I got some insurance. Like,
I was judging that, but
he was like, this motherfucker is not all in.
I'm like ready to go in November. I'm like, fuck it, let's do it.
Looking back, I'm like, what was I doing? Like, I mean, it's it's what you're talking about, obviously.
This idea of safety.
Yeah, big jump, like telling my mom or whatever. You know what I mean? Like just because your parents look at you one way or whatever.
Well, we didn't really know each other. You had not necessarily made that leap in the same way, like that same exact way you did for your career, for your filmmaking and stuff like that. But I think the transition behind like launching a business is different than like I'm gonna pivot my career sort of thing. Mm-hmm. And like when you pivot your career, it can take a few weeks. Like you're at least gonna have a few week buffer. Probably a few months, maybe. Like
Nick is like, just quit that shit tomorrow, dude. Like,
and he was right. I mean, I don't honestly. If I could do it all over again, I would have just quit immediately. But what are you gonna do?
Yeah. What were you doing before? Like, what you talked about movies, film, school. What did you go to school for? Like, where is this passion for maybe movies and film and content come from?
Yeah. So when I went to undergrad, it was in the time. So I graduated high school in 2008, right? Okay. And so when I graduated from high school, I feel like we're probably in a similar age group a little bit.
Yeah,
maybe.
I graduated in 2012.
Same. Okay.
So
from high school?
Oh, you guys are younger. Holy shit. Okay, cool.
I graduated in 2000.
We have a plethora of experience.
But when I graduated, guidance counselors and all these people, they'd be like, you don't need to choose your major. It's totally cool to be undecided. You can be undecided. They might have even made like a movie called Undecided or something.
I think they did.
You know what I mean? Yeah. And so anyway, so I get to school, I was undecided, and I just had such a good time right off the bat. I made
friends Northeastern.
At Northeastern, I made friends with kids on my floor. One of which
Stetson East,
Stetson West.
Oh,
nice one.
I went to Northeastern for 1 year, but I got thrown out for selling weed.
Entrepreneur. He was always an entrepreneur.
Exactly.
Well, I voluntarily left. I didn't get thrown out. So,
for the record.
But yeah, you know, I made friends right away with guys on my floor, one of which I'm the godfather of his daughter now, and another one lives in my complex.
Nice. I know you. Nice complex.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, right. You
Guy Z used to live there. We got a couple other friends there.
Yeah,
It's a good vibe.
So, you know, good friends for a long time. And then, like, you know, one semester of college flies by, and then they're basically like, all right, bitch, like, you need to choose a major.
Can't be
right
undecided
now,
You
know,
were
or-
like, wait, I thought this was chill. Like I didn't have to.
Exactly. I thought this was cool, you know? So I didn't, like, I couldn't major in art because, like, I come from an immigrant family. There was never going to be any sort of, like, art major.
They weren't going to accept that.
Well, it's just more like, you know, it wasn't even like I would bring it up because I honestly didn't see the value in it either because I was like, well, if you're going to do that, you can just do it. You don't have to, like, go to school.
Can I ask you, so is this preface happening because you're trying to justify why you didn't take the major that you feel would be more representative of your character?
No, I mean, my college major experience was quite frankly a huge shit show. Like, so I switched to math, and then everyone was like, yo, you're going to be a math teacher? And I was like, what the fuck did you just say to me? Like, you know,
Shut your goddamn mouth.
Exactly. I was like, what?
Yes.
And then the other thing is everyone's like, oh, be an actuary, which is like predicting, like, you know, risk on
My ex was an actuary.
Yeah.
You're
Just do some fucking
you don't
fancy
strike me as the actuarial.
Yeah, I was like, what
vibe.
the fuck is this? You know, so then
Math isn't going to work.
when I was 19, so now I'm like a year in, my friend started recording music, and I was gonna like manage him, which is like a super 19-year-old
Yeah.
thing
Oh,
to
yeah,
do.
I'm a
you know?
manager.
Exactly. And then one of the first manager tasks was to reach out to a music video director for him. I reached out to, get this, Mac Miller's music video director, this guy Ian Wolfson, Rex Arrow, incredible talent for creation, and he got back to me. And so at that time, early in Mac Miller's career, Ian Wolfson, Rex Arrow was charging like $1,500 a video, which, knowing what I know now, is like insanely cheap.
That's
And
insane.
We immediately should have just thrown the friggin' kitchen sink to get in that video. Like, you got this guy, come on. It's like having Tarantino do your thing, you know? But I was like, that's way too much. What if I tried to make a video, right?
That's too much, yeah.
Yeah, so I rented a camera. I rented a camera from Northeastern. They were really cool about it, and I got like one of these big like broadcast cameras. So you guys got like modern shit right here.
Legit stuff. Yeah.
It was not like this. It was basically like a broadcast camera.
The one that you have a
but
shoulder
like
pad. on.
Exactly, like a shoulder pad thing. Because I just thought the bigger the camera, the
Yeah,
better
it's
it
better
is.
the quality, obviously.
I was like, it's a big ass camera. That's what I need, you know. And so I rented that, and I did 3 videos with him in a weekend with that one. And right from the first video, all of our friends, everybody that we showed it to was like, wow, this is like pretty good. You should like keep doing it. And I was like, all right. So I bought a DSLR camera. Somewhere, you know, in the next few weeks, I figured out, oh wait, DSLR cameras are the way to go. And I started making videos for him. And then one of the videos I made for him ended up getting big enough that other people noticed it in Boston, other like musicians. So I started making music for them, or music videos for them. Then I started interning at a recording studio on Newbury Street in Boston, which is like the kind of main swanky street there. And at that, I met other artists there. I met Charlie Puth, who was 19 years old. I was 21, and he was going to Berklee College of Music. And I started making music videos for him. He was signed to Ellen DeGeneres' record label. Fun fact.
Didn't even know she had a record.
No one knew that. I mean, obviously, it wasn't that
I
successful.
only listen to music from that label. Yeah.
Yeah,
He has a whole playlist on Spotify.
Yeah. So it was
the Ellen catalog.
the Ellen catalog. It's the hot tracks, you know. And so anyway, worked with him, and then I moved after I graduated. I ended up graduating with a civil engineering major, basically because
That's impressive.
Well, my buddy was a civil engineer, and he was like, dude, if you like the math stuff, this is like one of the easiest engineerings you can do. Like compared to chemical and all this other stuff, he's like, we can like study together. I was like, fuck, it sounds good to me. Let's like do it. It was such a struggle for me to graduate because I was like, I just don't want to do any of this. I was skipping class to take the Fung Hua bus to New York for $10 to shoot videos in New York. By this point, I was working with New York artists and label artists in New York. I took one meeting.
I thought they just called it the Chinatown bus.
The Fung Hua bus was the name of it. There was Lucky Star and Fung Hua.
You like pronounced that perfectly. I was like, what is going on here?
That was the name of the bus.
He's an
That was the
expert.
name of the bus. So anyway, yeah, and like, you know, I remember one of my big things was I got a meeting with in a corner office at Atlantic Records with a VP of marketing at Atlantic, and at that point in my life, I was like, yo, I'm fucking doing this. You know, I was like, yo, I'm the shit right now. You know, and obviously then I moved to LA after I graduated, and I was so humbled immediately lately because I actually like people in New York were starting to know me, and I was like working my way up, trying to work with artists like Flatbush Zombies was really big at the time, and the penultimate was ASAP Rocky at the time, and the ASAP crew, they were really blowing up. And I saw a path to get to that, but then I moved to LA, which I thought was a really cool move. No one in LA knew anything that I'd done. I didn't know about, maybe now it's different because social media is so present, but this is like 2013. Nobody knew I was starting from zero and I needed to make money.
So what made you go to LA? Like, did you just think like, oh, all the movie shit, all the film shit's in LA, I need to get in LA?
I was gonna move to New York, and then my friend in LA called me and said he had a spot in his apartment, and that was on Wednesday, and I just got on the plane on Sunday and lived in LA for 3.5 years. I mean, it's like the ultimate like early 20s move.
Yeah,
I was just like, yeah, LA seems pretty cool.
You got a bet?
I just like literally went and did that.
So there was no like, oh, I got this like nice network cooking in New York. It's like, yeah, but my buddy's got a bed in LA.
And I'm the shit, remember.
I've already figured it out.
Yeah, exactly. I'm the absolute shit, and every rapper in LA is going to want to work with me.
I think like it's funny, it's different, but I feel like everyone who like is driven in like entrepreneurial in life, you at some point have a thing that you're doing that starts out and goes way better than you think it's going to go. And then you're like, I figured it out. I cracked the code at how to grow my business, how to do whatever it is. Oh, yeah. And then you have something happen where you kind of have to restart and you're like, oh no, I was a fucking idiot. I had no idea how hard it is. I got lucky one time.
Every time.
And it like really level sets you.
The youthfulness, I think age is a key factor also. When you're young, when you're young, you're enthusiastically ignorant, yet willing to take on pretty much anything, and without any sort of block at all. Like I tried importing liquor from Brazil, and I spent 2.5 years getting label approval for the bottle. Like, dude, it was like ridiculous.
What time frame was this?
That was in college because a buddy in French class was like, or Spanish class was like, yo, I'm going down to Brazil. You want to start like a liquor company? And I was like, yeah. And I wanted to go to Brazil. So I was like, can we just like start a business, expense it, and go down to Brazil? So yeah, we did that. We went through a whole process. It took 2.5 years to go through the approval process. I had a whole bottle design, the labeling, the shipping logistics is a whole thing. You have breakage of the bottles in the and it's a significant percentage of them that break. It's something
30%?
like 15 to 30%.
They haven't figured it out yet.
So legitimately, if you ship glass stuff, it's just breakage as part of the process. So call it 15% at least, or 20%. Then also like all the legal stuff, you need to first. It needs to go through customs. There's a chance that you get scanned, but so there's what they can do is they can test it via the it's called TTF. It was spun out of the ATF, basically, Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms Department, and they spun this thing out. And it was, needless to say, there were all these logistical things that had to be done in order to get a liquor bottle on the shelf. Now, we never got to that part, but we got really far along with the process, and I was like, damn, this is going to take. I had a family member had passed away, and I had inherited a small amount of money, and I was like, this is going to be all of my money basically to go and buy. I think it was $50,000 to get a shipping container, and it's going to just be all my money just like in this fucking shipping container, and we don't even know how we're going to get it like onto the shelves. But the only reason I mentioned that story is that I think that enthusiasm though is actually like absolutely critical in order to probably potentially take on like. Isn't Elon Musk kind of like enthusiastically ignorant about things, like in terms of building tunnels underneath and getting approval from government entities to put it underneath LA? I mean, that's just like stupid. Like no one's like, oh yeah, like that's gonna be an easy task. Like that just sounds fucking painful. Basically, he can hire lawyers, he can do all these things, but he knows. He's never built a tunnel under LA before. So I don't even know that he'd built a tunnel before.
How hard could it be? You just dig a tunnel.
Yeah, just a hole in the ground.
So I feel like it's worthwhile if you are entrepreneurial, you need to take on some level of that like ignorant, enthusiastic risk. But like obviously, yeah, when you're really young, the ego is the thing that can get in the way. But Elon's not gotten rid of his, as far as I can tell.
I mean, but buying X has been a whole exercise in ego, and how it can maybe make you make not the best decisions.
Well, or your ego can be reinforced. If Pio had ended up in LA and suddenly is like boom lands there and suddenly making huge fucking music videos for people, the guy's going to have a big head at that point because the confidence that he had just got reinforced that was actually going to happen. So like life comes at you in random ways, and I think your personality adjusts basically based on that, or Mike Tyson's getting punched in the face sort of scene.
Yeah, and as a filmmaker, I think that there's probably an extra layer. I mean, look, there's the Tarantinos of the world, so it's incredibly challenging, but imagine just being like a really attractive person that's like an actor, and you go to LA,
Like me, yeah.
like Nick, and you just start getting roles right away in LA, and this is, before social media era at that time. I mean, it's still like that, like where Margot Robbie is the actress, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
Sydney Sweeney is going to be in all the movies for the hot chick.
and they go to the auditions and the people just basically king make them. They're like, yeah, you make sense for this new Marvel movie or something like that. That's how I feel like some of those people, like you can create a monster that way,
Well, especially when they're young. It's like if your first year or 6 months are easy, you just think it's always going to be easy. But we go back to Benny was telling that story about I don't remember, some Bible story. I'm horrible. I'm not a very religious person, but he was saying like, people had 7 years to harvest all these crops, and then they had 7 years of famine. And it's like, you got to recognize like you're not special. You're not anything different. You're just in a good time frame. And like when you're in the good time frame, you have to harvest it, and then you need to set some away for like when the eventual shit happens. Cause like, it's just going to happen at some point. You're never just going to go like this.
Oh, absolutely not.
Especially at our space. It's like,
ours is probably the most extreme modern version.
I'm watching my net worth fluctuate like this,
every
and I'm
day,
like,
we wrap up
oh,
the pod
yeah.
and I open up the portfolio manager and I'm like, I'm down 6 figures. like just from where I was before we record the pod. Like, I didn't sell, but like this shit's, it's not easy. So when you started doing the show every day, like how long did it take for you guys to really recognize like, oh, this is gonna be like a sustainable business model? Because it takes time from.
I don't know if we've recognized that yet.
We just did it immediately, and it's like it's a real major pain in our ass, honestly. Like the show we are grateful for, simultaneously, like we know that we need to make that commitment. You were talking about just being there every day, and that's like rule number 1 basically, is show up. Like that's like the first thing. But we dove in head first. Like there was no moment, because we raised money in November and we started in like September. And it was like, look, this like business is like the market is booming. Now is the moment to raise capital.
Yeah.
And so it was just like, let's just go. And so I don't think there wasn't any hesitancy. I think what instead we've had is just trying to figure out, how do you make it work? And that's been what the process has been. Is really just figuring out how do we make it work?
I mean, I think
And
one
that's
of the
been
things
2
you guys
years.
do really well is like you have the newsletter. You've been pushing that for a while. Is that your idea from the Facebook days? You see like, oh, we need to own our own audience. Like we need to not just rely on Twitter or YouTube, but like actually have a end point of contact that.
I don't know if it was my idea, but I'm definitely adamant about having ownership over some of your channels, over your audience. Basically, I don't own the audience, obviously, or we don't own the audience, but it's more so from the standpoint. Yeah, I'm a strong advocate of newsletters. I built the whole system that's powering it. Now we're transitioning off of it, just because like I shouldn't be coding. But
You shouldn't be coding. You're using ChatGPT to code. Like,
no, I've been a developer for 20 years.
oh shit! Like we didn't even talk about that. Did you go to school for computer science?
No, I went to school. First went to Northeastern. Like I said, got thrown out for that. Then I went to school for business. But then I taught myself how to code, and I started a startup. The first company I built was an online site to sell music. Before iTunes existed, there was MP3s did exist. There was Napster, and there were some of these other things that came out of Northeastern. And basically there were sites that were starting to sell MP3s, and maybe iTunes, it was just starting around that time. And I was like, maybe we can like actually help independent musicians. Actually, MP3s, it was still, people were still using CD players. The MP3 players had not come out yet. So I was like, cool, let them upload their music and we'll print the CDs on demand. So we built like a CD printing thing, and we built an online music site. And then MySpace came out, or Friendster, and I was like, yo, if you put these 2 things together, that's going to be dope. So I put together a social network like that. And that whole process was me learning at that time PHP, which had just come out. And my MIT friend wanted to learn that language. So just because he wanted to learn it, we ended up making it with that. He didn't finish the site. I went and learned how to code. And so I just spent a bunch of time learning how to code. And that was the journey. I was a self-taught engineer. I built mobile apps, got employed eventually as a developer. So yeah, I've been doing that for a long time.
And have you been in New York this whole time that you've been doing this?
No, DC, then San Francisco, then New York.
Okay. And how recently did you move to New York?
I think it's 8 years ago.
Oh, okay. So you've been here for a while before all the...
7 years in San Francisco, 8 years here, and then DC was all the development stuff. DC has a pretty active like tech scene.
So you're in LA for 3.5 years. What I'm assuming, did you come back to New York after
I moved
LA?
to New York, yeah.
And in LA, did you like make any like good connections or make any progress, or were you just kind of like stuck like a car in mud, just kind of stuck?
So for the first like 3 to 6 months in LA, I was really giving it my all to get something going. And this other guy that I'd worked with in Boston moved out to LA 6 months before me. And he was like very much so, it was a natural fit for him in LA. He was getting more and more tattoos. Every time I saw him, he just had more tattoos.
That's me with him.
Yeah. And like we'd go to like events, and the way he would like hit it off with the LA people, like, cause he was just dressing like with like really good style and everything. And I was just kind of like not focused on stuff like that. I was like, well, this guy seems like he's doing pretty good in LA.
He's getting tattoos.
He's getting more tattoos.
Yeah, more
Must be doing well.
and so that guy so then I ended up running out of money, and I had to get a job because I was like, I'm not going to just go back to the East Coast. Like I'm not going to go back with my tail between my legs.
I'm gonna figure this shit out.
I'm going to figure this shit out. So I got a sales job. And so then I'm 1 foot in with entertainment business, 1 foot in with sales, and he's my main connect. The tattoo guy's my main connect. He becomes Diplo's tour photographer. Huge gig. I was like, wow, this guy's like absolutely crushing it. This is crazy. And I'm going deeper on the sales path. And
I think it was the tattoos.
Only the tattoos.
Had
to be. But anyway, so then I just go deeper and deeper on the sales path, and I end up working in sales there for 3.5 years and not really focused on entertainment industry, creative stuff at all. So, but the skills I developed for, call it 2.5 to 3 years out of the 3.5 years, the persuasive skills, the management skills, so many skills, the recruiting skills. It was a headhunter role. So I'm headhunting software engineers for companies, right? I use all that shit in our business 1,000%. The last 6 months of that job, maybe the last 9 months, I could have just ended early. So I consider that sort of like a lost period. It's like, whatever. And then I moved back to the East Coast just because of my family, just because I was the only one on the West Coast, and, you know, immigrant, Italian, American family, like everyone's like trying to get me to come back. So I was like, fuck it. I won't do Boston, but I'll do New York. The dude that ended up going and being the photographer with Diplo ended up getting addicted to heroin in that process. And that sort of like gave me a certain perspective on the entertainment industry, because like that's a pretty good position, all things considered, like literally touring the world with Diplo and crushing it on social media and having just ridiculous scenes in your life. You know, I was like, well, a lot of people would want to do that. I don't know how it ended up going so bad. I've met up with that guy recently. He's doing he's doing really well now, but it's still crazy, like that arc or whatever. So then I came here to New York, and I kept working jobs, but the whole time I was like, I got to start a content business. So I was going to do a food content business. I was going to do videos of cooking stuff, and I never pressed post on anything. I kept shooting, editing, but never press post. So that's when I started doing NFT content finally after COVID. When I plugged in NFTs, I saw myself for 1 second in the first 3 or 4 weeks, for 1 second, about to not press post again. And I was like, we're not doing this again. This is a brand new space. We're not doing this again. We're pressing post. And then I switched to live stream within 3 weeks, because I was like, I need a frictionless way to get this shit out the door. So that was when I just started going hard. And from like the first day that I did a live stream, I've done a live stream for NFT shit like literally almost every calendar day, aside from when we switched to cutting out weekends.
But you got to have a life.
Oh yeah, we
like
weren't doing. That's so crazy. We were doing weekends.
I
That
know
was so
you used
stupid.
to. Like the thing we realized hosting an IRL pod is like we have to have a life outside of the pod, because if your life is just the one thing, like you become almost uninteresting to talk to at some point. Like everything that you could talk about, like you've already lived.
You've
and
run
then-
out of things because it's just
'cause
like,
I
oh,
ran
the floor
into that
price.
when I was hosting spaces every day. I was doing fucking 4, 8, 12-hour long spaces. And like after 6 months,
So ridiculous.
after 6 months, I'm just like, I don't have anything else to talk about that we haven't talked about for hours. And then
Well, go back to the beginning.
Like-
do it again.
like then what happens is you just spend so much time being nostalgic. Like you're not actually spending time like doing new things and learning new things. You're like, yeah, you remember when we bought Cool Cats for $20 and we were like, we like the cats. And then they went to like $30,000. That was great. And then like you just spend all time talking
Most
about
expensive Father's Day of my life. Didn't it come
You
out
didn't
like
mint
over
them?
Father's Day weekend or something like that? I didn't mint any because
You're
like,
like,
Expensive because he didn't.
yeah,
buy
because I
it.
wasn't there.
that. Like I'm gonna spend time with my family.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh, all my friends made hundreds of thousands.
The
of
crypto
dollars,
market
and
has a
I
way of
ate-
punishing you for spending time with your family.
I ate a meal with my dad. Like, what do I got to show for it? But yeah, it's important to have that balance. Like, I'm glad that you realize that and aren't doing weekends, because you would probably burn out.
Yeah.
We're still dealing with it. I mean, the
I'm
biggest
definitely dealing with it for sure.
the biggest thing is like how we manage that morning. We're working through it right now to have it so. I think the ideal situation, you still need a way to show up. Live shows itself makes it quite difficult. Honestly, if we could, it would be like, I feel like from a reach standpoint, we'd reach way more people if we just did the video stuff, like us doing stupid videos for like literally 6 months straight. We'd probably just see a huge upswing.
Yeah, like if
in
you just
terms
did
of
like
audience.
Solana Soldier, FTX raps.
Exactly. And so people are going to be like, oh, I've seen you. I know you. And when I talk to people, oftentimes that's where they know us. Most people are not willing to listen to a podcast for any period of time. Those that are, like, we get half an hour is our listen time on our episodes. And so it's really like you have to like figure out like, how do I make that format as efficient as possible for you also individually. The fact that it's live is so difficult. But you know, that is the medium that we went with. It's to Pio's point, it's great for publishing because it's so easy. It's out there, it's done. It's also so difficult because you're on the treadmill where you just have to keep producing.
You can't
that.
ever preload a bunch of shit and just post it every day.
Well, maybe we should. Actually,
Yeah.
now that you say that, that's actually, I like that idea because YouTube lets you premiere content.
Yeah.
We could theoretically do that and just bounce off and just record the thing.
This is live, everyone.
And then be like, that's actually.
Well, it's like how they
hilarious.
do like game shows and stuff where it's like Steve Harvey goes in and they record 20 episodes of Family Feud
Yes.
and then he comes back in next week and records 20 episodes.
That's what Rob Dyrdek does with Ridiculousness, which is why I mentioned it, because he has a whole system and I've been now mimicking it in terms of categorized hours. It goes through a Google Sheets plugin where you can see how your time is being allocated on a categorized level. And he has it so that whole show is recorded. He's in and out within 45 minutes. And I think the main reason that they have that frequency of how it happens is primarily because you're commentating on news events. So that's like what's difficult. Our show each day is based on the information that came out yesterday. So we just can't pre-record that sort of format. So we're like, we are a morning show for people to like hear what's going on. So it is difficult, but it is definitely exhausting, and figuring out how you sustain that is key because we're also trying to build this whole other part of our business. Pio's been spending a lot of time on it. And that's where, like, today we were talking about it. I'm like, yo, we need to get a CEO of that part of our business, basically, so that we can continue to dominate content, but really just focus on that area because we're going crazy, like being split between those two things. So, yeah.
So I guess like taking a step back and looking at kind of the business as a whole, what is your kind of like ideal end game of where you are in like, say, 5 years or something as a company? Is it media? Because you talked a lot about like merch and different things. Like how would perfect 5 years from now, where are you sitting? What are you doing, focusing on?
It's a consumer brand with huge reach, basically, but you're where it's built around the audience that we're focused on right now is crypto. We've debated whether or not it should expand to like finance, but the bottom line, that would be if there was the biggest version of it. We haven't like made a conscious decision to be like, oh, we're going to finance. There's enough crypto stuff at this moment. Started as NFTs. I think that was the beachhead. Crypto is the next concentric circle. So I think we feel pretty comfortable operating in that category. And so it's really building like a big crypto consumer brand. BoDoggos is our actual IP NFTs. You're rocking the hat and you're a whale. I mean, you're a BoDoggos king. And so it's really, what is the path for that? What does that look like? And what is it uniquely for us? And I think we're still exploring some of it. Pio's been hard at work on the physical product side of things. And so I think that, but the long game for that is like, and sorry, I want to hear what Pio says on this as well. But the last thought on this is the way that consumer brands have existed over time has completely shifted. So like, you would go build this product and then get it onto the shelves and then people just buy it off the shelf, right? And then there's all these influencers like Mr. Beast, like Logan Paul, and KSI with their brand and all these other people. I think that legitimately is the way that products are going to be, like brands are going to be built in the future. We're doing it within crypto. And so right now it's relatively small. It's a pretty small brand. The revenue is not coming from the physical stuff that Pio's working on. Is coming from us selling NFTs. There may be one more revenue generating moment of that, not in a massive way, but that helps us fund our what's effectively a small business. And then on the content side, it's how do you grow that audience to like 1 million people? Like, what is the path that you get there? I think you can build a very sizable brand with an audience of 1 million people essentially. And so if you're at that size, Pudgy Penguins is in the process of doing that. They have their own way of doing it. I think Azuki is going to do it in their own way. I think Bored Ape Yacht Club is trying to figure out their path down that road as well. We like doing it from the content first side of things and think that there's a massive opportunity there to build it in our own way. Like, I don't think we're Mr. Beast. I don't think we're Logan Paul. I don't think we're just us. And so like, it's how do you get that to a place where people want to pay attention, where they're actually interested in it, and you're making something of value to them that they're like, oh, this is worth watching. I laughed because I watched the video for 60 seconds or whatever it is. I'll check out the next one. Like that sort of thing. How do you build that? That's kind of what I view. I'm curious if there's something that you...
I couldn't have said it better.
That was super eloquent.
I mean, it's super eloquent and really just harping on, like, you look at the Logan Pauls of the world with Prime, you look at Mr. Beast with Feastables. It's got to be the way that things are going, because if content's going to continue to be consumed in that way with individual creators or individual brands, then those brands will be able to leverage those audiences. One thing that's going to be really interesting is seeing who can also make like a decent brand. Look, if you get big enough, it seems like you can kind of sell anything if you get big enough, but we obviously want to make something really good. I think you can look at some other crypto YouTubers, like the sort of like bigger old guard of crypto YouTube, and then maybe look at some of the brands that they've built, and it's like the YouTube channel's way better executed than the products were. So I'm really proud of everything we're doing with BoDoggos. I see you rocking the hat, and I really appreciate that. And I'm so excited to start getting physical product out the door. But obviously, that whole vertical, the BoDoggos and the intellectual property vertical, is bigger than a hat or a shirt and stuff like that. But it takes so long to really like get all that going. And
there's so much time on that. Pio's put an immense amount of work into it, which I don't know. One of the hardest things that we find is that like the audience, I think where we have a problem is we don't share enough of that behind the scenes stuff. And that's a huge opportunity for us over the next 12 months, frankly. Because people don't see us putting in all the effort to that. What they see is us showing up every day on the show. But in their mind, that's all that we are, because that's what they see. And so they don't see this other part of, oh, they're building a business, they're working on merchandise, they're flying out to meet with different manufacturers to figure out how those things get made and go and make them. Definitively, Pio's done a great job, but we're doing things the hard way. Like, we're definitively going about it the hard way to get it out the door. Frankly, that may end up being the best decision that was ever made out of this entire process, is just like, what sucks is like your audience wants something immediately. They want that like that instant gratification. They're like, well, what are they doing? What are they executing on? What are they building, sort of thing? And it's like, yo, shut the hell up. You bought the thing for $50, for $70, for $100. Just let that be there. Like, you don't need to own. If you have a bunch of them, cool, congratulations, you're rich. Enjoy being rich, and then go on vacation and come back to us in a year, okay? Just
I
do
love that. Because there's too many holders. Like, they buy something and it's like, it is their job in their head to like get updates from you. It's like, what'd you do today? Like, I have $70 worth of your stuff. Like, what did you do? And then in our space, it's like they have louder voices than the people who own 50. Like, how many times have I ever DM'd you guys and been like, what's the latest update here? Like, can I get the quarterly BoDoggos investor report? Like, what do I
I'd
do
be
with my
so
bunk?
confused. I'd be like, what happened?
Yeah.
Right? Like, I think
Who
a lot
stole
of us.
Deez's account?
I think a lot of us who own a bunch, like, Farouk, we just talked to Spencer, actually, Gordon Sand.
Yep.
And like, we just see you guys showing up every day. I don't need to, I could check out for a year and just be like, hey, or I can be like, oh, Gordon Goner bought some. Like, let me get my cost basis back because this is a liquidity event.
Yes.
We love Gordon.
Smart move.
When we see that Gordon is buying, I mean, I have Gordon on Twitter alerts. I've said this a few times this week. I like to play the markets when Gordon is.
Oh, if he tweets it goes up a little bit, you definitely can make a
That,
nice.
dude, that is my big. I didn't even know that was part of it. So he's had me blocked for years, and I don't know why.
We're gonna have him on the pod, and then I'm gonna ask him to unblock you.
When I see him at events and shit, I'm like,
be so
hey man,
confused.
what's up? We talk, like we're good. I've been blocked from him on Twitter for years, and so when everyone is like tweeting, like, "Oh, Gordon's buying this thing," I'm like, I have no idea what the fuck's going on.
So I have
I'm totally- I'm
Elon
totally out of
has
the
me
loop.
blocked. So I have a burner account.
does?
Elon.
Oh.
Uh,
You're blocked
That's
by
kinda-
Elon Musk. That's a baller ass
That's
position.
kind of baller, man.
all
way
I
cooler
did
than
one
Gordon
day
Goner.
in all caps, I just put out a pleading tweet
About Twitter?
about the algorithm.
I saw that,
before
yeah.
you. He blocked me for that one.
Wow. So he saw it.
He saw it. He read it. So I have a burner account that only has him on alerts. So I still get all the
still
alerts
get Elon.
because like you need to see what Elon is tweeting. Like for better or worse, if Elon ever tweets a meme with my bags, I'm gonna sell it. Like
Yeah.
the My Lady shit.
That was crazy.
He tweeted, "There is no meme, I love you," and like My Ladies went up to 7 or 8 ETH, and it's like, okay, this was 3 ETH like 5 minutes ago. Seize the memes. Elon tweeted the
Yeah,
fucking
that's
seize
actually
the
crazy.
memes.
I
Like
forgot
I
about
forgot
that.
he even did that.
I sold every meme card.
Well,
Like
that was a
50
good
plus
move.
ETH meme cards. I was like, it's done.
Making moves right there, dude. That was a good
Because
move.
you have to. Like my
Yeah.
livelihood comes from like me executing in the market. It doesn't come from the pod. It doesn't come from a job. It's like I need to, eat what I kill. And like when a fucking other person gives you such a gracious opportunity, it's like, who am I to not take advantage of that? Like, you don't know. Gordon buying the Node Monkeys is the only thing I've seen him buy that is like not down to where he bought it at within like a week.
Like it's
Like
above.
normally it's like 8 hours. Like normally if he buys something for $1,000, it might go to $2,000 in the next hour or two. But within 8 to 24 hours, it's back down to the price that he paid.
BoDoggos has steadily gone there. Something I realized though, Solana is really tough. Also, we were discussing it this morning on the show. Actually, I don't know if one of the loans went out because now I was like debating. I'm like, is this stupid? But we were discussing the NFT lending side of things, and basically, if those loans default or if someone ends up with it, you're not dumping to the floor to get liquidity to
Yes.
cover your cost basis. So like that's the way that system works. And basically it just eats up the bids over time with all these different things. So there's a lot of people, and there's also a lot of point harvesting stuff that's going on with Tensor and stuff. So like all those spikes are immediately attacked,
Oh yeah.
and there's no sustainability out of the levels. Whereas like when CryptoPunks goes up, it's just nice and steady, basically. It's sitting there. There's not a lot of volatility. No one's racing out the door to just like floor 15 CryptoPunks all
I've
of a
been
sudden.
waiting for this opportunity for forever.
But when it comes with with any newer collection, including our own, it's just wildly volatile, and it's really difficult as somebody like in the space. I talk a lot of shit like on Twitter, and it's
Part of the brand.
And
that's
yeah.
part of my brand.
And
Talking shit.
but basically people will be like, yeah, but have you seen your floor price recently? And I'm like, okay, touche.
Fair enough.
And then I'm like, all right, yeah, maybe I shouldn't be doing that like this. But yeah, it is tough.
It's tough when you have a collection out that is representative of what you do, because then there's always the holders that are like what you said. Oh yeah, you're making fun of Bored Apes for being down. Well, how much is a dog? How much is an ape? And you're like, okay, well, fuck off. Like, you know,
Both
it's like,
can. I can still talk shit. It doesn't
I
matter.
know it's a bit, god damn it. Like,
Yeah.
it's part of who you are. I think the BoDoggos is a good thing to talk about. You had we should first talk about the Nifty Portal, the ETH NFT, and then what led to the creation of BoDoggos. Because, I mean, I don't even think I own a Nifty Portal NFT, but I own the dogs because I just like the dogs.
Well, the dogs have product market fit, which is like a profile picture collection, 8,888 supply or something similar like that. I mean, you look at CryptoPunks have product market fit. That's why, and plus the fact that the dogs are on Solana, and it does feel like, I guess today, Killer Bears announced that they're migrating from Ethereum to Solana.
Really?
Oh, wow. I
I
didn't.
didn't see that.
They're pulling a D-Gods.
Reverse the guys.
An inverse, but it feels like it's kind of more interesting to me, right? Because
Yeah.
it means that maybe more people are going to recognize Solana as potentially the preferred chain for profile picture NFT collections. Who knows how this shakes out? But the Nifty Portal was our first NFT. We got it out the door in January 2022, so the literal top of the NFT market.
Good
So
time to get it out the door.
great time. And we raised capital, like the venture capital that we raised was at the Pico top of crypto. So another good
Beautiful timing.
beautiful timing event. That was awesome. But yeah, so like with Nifty Portal, we're ultimately, going to be making the kind of rollout. I don't want to like give detail here today on like the kind of next phase for that, but it'll be a move towards product market fit.
We did already say that we're going to have a PFP
Yeah,
associated with it. So that was stated at the beginning of the product. The sequencing got adjusted, just literally random sequence of events, to be completely honest. BoDoggos was ready to hatch, I guess, and so we decided to go with that first. The artist who created that had actually had the PFP project in progress, and
we moved him on to BoDoggos.
he was like,
Gotcha.
what we felt at that moment was like 85% done with the project, but then we moved to BoDoggos, got BoDoggos done, launched that instead, and now there will be a PFP. We haven't specified what it was, and we've even discussed changing it, the original plan. But basically, it will convert, because the bottom line is the portal does not have product market fit. The BoDoggos have product market fit. The BoDoggos are more expensive than the portal, but our vision of it was that was the premium collection that would actually convert over to this new PFP. Just a sequence of events resulted in the way that it was. But I think we're going to end up with something that hopefully people are really excited about. And most of it you can get for free via the portal, is the way that works. So by owning the NFTs, we want to reward people. And so that's the foundation of it.
So, how many people are on the Nifty Portal team now?
Well, I mean, we have a small business. Yeah. So our organization is me, Nick, 3 other guys full time. Another guy started in sales. So he's not actually full time, but he kind of is. And then we have, our art team, and we have contractors.
10. So basically 10 people, including the artists that are there. And then you have contractors, of which we have another 10 plus contractors.
And how has the show, like, now there's 5 or 6 people on the show every day?
Yeah, I mean, so with the show, you got Clemente as the producer. Obviously me, Nick, and Easy are typically always there. I've been taking more days off and having Clemente host. He still has
Has that been nice?
Oh, it's phenomenal. It's the best. I tell Nick to do it too. I tell Nick to take days off. Clemente still has to grow, and he's still a young guy, and he needs to grow more. But it's fantastic just having him there to be able to run the show. Like, he can run the show, which is amazing, and he's got room to grow. And we're working with him on it, but he can run the show, and he does a good job, and that's awesome. But yeah, then we have Signal. She's one of our talents, and then obviously Kix. Spencer comes on the show, frequently, and we love Spencer. But that's kind of like the structure of that show. Node comes on it occasionally, and we want to get better about guests. Yeah. You guys.
Yeah. Love working with him.
I like Node a lot.
How did you guys meet Easy? Because I feel like he was, one of the people beating the Solana drum when shit was
Day one. He came on our show the first day, I think,
Really?
and was talking about some jellyfish thing that looked like dicks.
Deep sea jellies.
Deep sea jellies.
They look like dicks.
They literally look like dicks with jellyfish arms, basically.
You were bullish on him, right?
And
He was.
I bought some because Easy was. I was ready to ape into anything. I mean, this was like around August of 2021. I mean, dude, that moment was ridiculous. You had mutants jump. I remember being at the beach and buying, and it was COVID still, and so we buying like different art blocks where the price was just going up, or loot when that had happened around that time.
He had me buying fucking divine robes.
Yeah, so you
And
gotta
it's
buy
like-
the divine robes to get you into the special
You
Discord.
they went up to 40 ETH, and it was the utility was that you were in a locked Discord chat. Like no one even really
with Dom Hoffman.
like I bought this thing for like 5 ETH. I was like, oh, Andy's aping these robes. Like, oh, maybe the floor loot's like under an ETH. Like, let me get this like cool kids club, like, you know, thing. A week later, it's like 40 ETH. I'm like, dude, nothing is even going on in the chat. Like the
So did
holder.
you sell it?
What?
Did you sell it?
Yeah.
then?
Oh yeah. I might have sold it for like 30. Like I sold on the way down. You know, when you're like trying to gauge the momentum and you're like, it's kind of high. Like it seems pretty stupid.
You only
but,
sold
like,
it for over $100,000. Like, yeah. Oh shit! Like a
but you're
couple
like,
weeks
I
later.
mean, there could be another wave of greater fools. Like, you know, it's provocative. It's text. It's divine robes. Like
Over 100,000 is definitely the greater fool circle gets smaller. Like I have found.
There's only so many greater fools with 6 figures to spend on a text.
you're like,
Yeah,
does Steve Aoki know about this chat? Like, I think he would love this.
I think Steve would really enjoy the chat.
Yeah, like Steve, like we're talking high level shit here. Like you could probably make your investment back. Like it's how I feel, you know, and not to throw shade here, but like at Lolly, it's Lab. Like I'm sure you can buy that thing and make money, but that motherfucker's 20 ETH. Like it's divine robes, but for people probably wearing robes and not like.
There were ones.
I'm in that chat. If you ever want the alpha, let me know.
Yeah, I
You're
mean,
still in there.
Well, so I mean, I bought the friend tech key for like 1 ETH, and it migrated over. I'm still in the chat. I guess I could sell it for 20. I probably should sell it for 20. If I'm being totally honest, because I don't even trade shit coins. I just talk with people in there. I don't
Wait,
even
it's
make
still
any.
20 ETH?
yes.
Yeah, so
There's
they
still 20 ETH
So
in
they
these fucking
migrated off
potions.
friend tech to an NFT collection, and the floor for the NFT collection is like 20, 25 ETH right now.
That's crazy.
For a fucking Telegram chat.
Yeah. But like, there's dudes in there who are making like a lot of fucking money. I'm just not one of them. I'm just in there like, what'd you guys have for lunch today?
You're like posting IKB in there. You're like, yo, check this shit out. There's overlay. Like, get in this sports betting
And they're
platform.
like, dude, we just went and bought 20% of the supply of this random shit coin that just launched 14 minutes ago. We don't have time to watch sports.
Dude, this is hilarious because it's like a country club, except everyone's at home
On their computer
on their
for 16
computer
hours a day.
Yeah,
Gambling.
So the guy who like is the creator of it, he's in New York right now, and he was like, you know, is anyone in New York you want to like hang out? And like 15 people in the chat are all like, yeah, I'm in New York, and I was like, I didn't know all you motherfuckers were in New York. Like, no one's ever hanging out. Everyone's just sitting at home trading shit coins.
It's so ridiculous.
There's so many people in New
man.
York. I mean, it's a big reason we do the pod here. He's here, Weish is there, but like you always have good guests in New York. Like there's no higher concentration of interesting individuals in any other city than this city.
Yeah, I could totally see that. It's also
Or
for
at
our
least
age.
it's
Pio's trying to convince us to move to Miami right now, so stop saying
Well,
that.
okay, I could see that too. I think obviously we're biased
Miami.
because he lives here and our producer's here. So it's like, why would they all fly to Miami? But also like the people we know in our circles, it's like there's so many in New York and a lot you don't even recognize it. Like Spencer was someone I didn't even realize was in New York. And then our guest was, you know, I won't say who it was, but we had a guest this morning and, you know, we agreed to shoot. And then at like 10:20, it was pretty evident that like they weren't coming. So I just put out a tweet that was like, yo, can anyone be in Greenpoint like ASAP to do a pod? And then Spencer reached out and he was like, I'll be there. I'm like, oh, please.
Oh,
please.
nice.
So then Spencer, when we wrap up, is like, I'm hurt you didn't ask me to be on the pod originally. And I'm like, dude, I didn't even know you lived in New York. Like,
Yeah, I had no idea.
I have a list of like guests and like where I think they live. Like I thought Jack Butcher lived in New York until I talked to him and he's like, oh yeah, I'm not city. I'm like, oh, like you're just always here when I'm here. I thought you lived here. But I think you guys like with the IRL content, with the Solana shit, like the SBF stuff, like I want to see you lean into that more because it always cracks me the fuck up. Like it's impossible not to smile. Like Nick, your ability to just be yourself and not give a fuck. Like I envy that, and like I can't be that way. And it's rare that somebody does it in such a like unabashedly themselves way. Like it doesn't feel like you're playing a character. Like it, even just talking to you today, like that feels like how you are.
Yeah. Authenticity is one of our, we wrote down company values, although we haven't like finalized them, but there's no doubt in my mind that's going to end up being at the core of it. That's what makes us, I think, who we are, is we're just authentically us.
And it comes off. It's like very evident.
Oh, well, thank you. Nick's an incredible performer. I'll be the first one to tell you. I have 3 scripts I've written in the past week that we're ready to like. Well, Nick won't read them.
I've read one of them. They're good. No, they're really good. I feel like we could literally just bullet what the idea is before the script is written. But regardless, the bottom line is like I love the concepts. The biggest thing, well, right now it's like cold as shit, and I was just thinking about
so
it,
cold.
and I was like, am I gonna want to go spend 3 hours recording outside when it's 25 degrees? No, like there's no way that I want to do that, and there's no one that's hanging out, and anyone that's out there is gonna be like, psycho.
It's gotten weird with the weather. This is, you know, when I talk about Miami, it's for 2 reasons: the weather and it's the financial component, because the tax
state
situation,
taxes, the New York
and
tax.
cost of living too. Because I mean, you live in Williamsburg.
Yeah.
So me too. It's a lot of money, dude. It's a lot.
yeah,
It's like out of control.
Yeah, I know what building you're in.
Yeah, and it's not
I know
even-
because you said Guy used to live there. There's only so many buildings where crypto people live in Williamsburg.
I guess so. Yeah, and it's not even like a condo building. It's not even like nice. It just costs a lot of money to live here. And so, but I was thinking the other day, when we go and do those videos in like Washington Square Park, that's like an easy environment for us to go get it done. And we've learned to bump it up from $1 to like basically with $10, you're just going to get takers like left and right.
Yeah.
Like you're going to get
I'll
takers.
do $10. Fuck it.
Exactly.
I'll do almost anything for $10.
Inflation.
Inflation. And so if you roll through with $150, you basically kind of know you're going to be able to get a video over the next 2.5 hours in Washington Square Park with New York people, which New York people have personality. I think you kind of just alluded to that. I don't totally know what the Miami scene is.
I'm not sure it would be the same.
You have to go on like the Miami Beach boardwalk or like the Miami Beach side of things and just catch like the fucking fitness bros jogging, catch like the Instagram model fucking laying in the sand and doing all sorts of shit with a tripod. Like,
And that might be pretty damn funny too.
Yeah.
Like Nick just talking to like bikini women and stuff. Like that's interesting, you know?
You might get like the cops called on you as well. But, you know, it is what it is. It's a cost of doing business, I think. So I'm curious, who wrote the rap for the SBF video?
Oh, I made the whole rap by myself. So I was with
It's impressive. It's like a lot of fun.
Let's go. Last week kicked off the trial of Sam Bankman. Prosecution came out swinging tons of ammunition. Caroline, Gary, and the Block 5 Prince. Futures traded so complex, jury not convinced.
Ring, 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 ring. Is Nick O'Neal on the line? Is the other person there, Miss Caroline?
No, it's your baby. Where you at, Mr. Daddy?
I'm headed downtown shortly. Call you back after nappy.
I hopped on the
so
bike
my
and
mom
floated
was
straight
in
downtown.
town. I actually, after happening, I was like, can I do this again? And my mom was in town. We were sitting on the subway coming back from, we'd gone to lunch or something. It was my girlfriend, my mom, my sister, and myself. And I started just like making rhymes about her sitting on the bench or whatever. And then I was like, and then I was in the elevator going up to my apartment with them, and I was like cursing at my mom, being like, "Yo, I'm a fuck shit up." Like I'm literally like I'm just being ridiculous, basically. And then I was like, I actually think I'm gonna make a rap. And my
like, I got this.
He texted me at 5 p.m. on Sunday. He said the text was, "So I want to make a rap video." That night, you started writing.
I made most of it that night actually, and I'd found a beat. I'd written most of the lyrics. I had started producing a track, and I got 50% of the way through the process, and I was like, oh, this is actually going to manifest into something. And then I thought it'd be hilarious to do different sound effects, like different voices, to do different characters, to like just fuck around with it. And so, yeah, that was done within 24 hours. And then we went and shot it. We tried to that day, but I didn't have it memorized. And he was like, dude, it's going to be way easier if you have it memorized. And I was like, yeah, I have no idea what this is. So I went back that night, just sang the song over and over and over and over again.
Could you do it right now? Like, do you have it in your muscle memory?
Yeah, yeah. The whole thing is memorized basically at this point. I went back and watched it yesterday. There was one part that I forgot, but I was like, yeah, like it's
like riding a bike.
yeah. Because you just memorize the song. Like I I know a bunch of songs from Hamilton, for example, like the My Shot, which is like hard, and then and I was like, yo, that rap is actually sick.
Oh, Lin-Manuel Miranda did.
So then I'm like, yeah, you gotta like. So I'm like, I gotta memorize this. Like, so like, it was COVID, and I'm like, what the hell else am I gonna do? And I'm like, I'm not throwing. Like, I would just remember that, like, memorize the whole thing, and I'd like study how he like his intonation and everything else. So, anyways, we made that one song. Pio used to make rap songs too. So I think we could.
I don't think we've ever talked about that publicly, but just to close the loop on that, the video came out Wednesday. So think about it. He texted me on Sunday, so I want to do a rap video. The video dropped on Wednesday afternoon.
That's sick. I think like if you didn't give me any context, I would have been like, that's like a multi-week production between like writing all that shit and actually filming it and editing
basically the whole thing. We didn't use an outside editing. He shot and edited the whole thing.
Nick helped, but yeah.
Well, yeah, I had it was a collaborative effort. We're good at collaborating on the video side of things.
Creative stuff.
That whole side of things, it's awesome. And I think honestly, there's so much growth potential that exists on the video side. And we're just bogged down right now with like operational shit, which is why it's like, yo, we need like for BoDoggos, for example, it's like we're putting in a lot of effort. Like we want to get like a CEO of BoDoggos basically who can like literally.
Is that not Easy? Like in my head, it's like Easy's the BoDoggo guy.
Easy's focused on sales, so that's it. That's his main focus, and
content.
He does his own content. I don't think he's not the business operations person, and like if someone's not that, do not try and like shoehorn a
that's not me. Like we know that.
And if you asked him, I think he'd say the exact same thing because he's doing really well at both those things right now, content and at sales.
Gotcha.
We're calling it sales, I mean, partnerships, whatever you want to call it. People are so weird in this
business shit.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, yeah, we make money.
Well, it's like
he's doing really good at the part where people pay us money to do things.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like we need to make money, or like we can't sustain ourselves, and then we can't put out content, and then we can't grow, and then we die, and then we move out of New York to Miami.
The goal would be like 3 million this year, and the really, if we can get to a point, like the dream is if you can have 10 million in revenue a year, that's a sick place to be. Obviously, you like there's pressure to keep continuing growing the business, but I think it's really like there is a path that exists down to that. It's tough though. Like I really think it's tough, and it's a long journey. All these physical product things, I think it's just not an instantaneous thing. But when you look at how much money, like the Mr. Beast of the world, the Logan Paul, I mean, they're huge. We're nobody. We're literally
you're
nobody.
on what, year 3? Year 2? Year 3?
We're on year 3
Coming
now.
into year 3,
And it's like you look at a lot of these growth charts, and it's really not till like years 5 through 7 that all that shit at the beginning that you don't see really starts to pay off and compound. Like you look at it would just keep going back to Mr. Beast, but it's like dude's putting out shit when he's 12, doesn't really start to take off till he's like 18, 19. It's like 6 years you didn't see. Like one of my favorite podcasts, Acquired, it's like they fucking were doing that shit for 5 years. No one cared. They put out like, a really good episode on Louis Vuitton that fucking blew up this year. And it's like, well, no one saw the 5+ years of them just in the trenches building their community, but it's the way to do it. It's like the only sustainable way. You don't just first year hockey stick.
Yeah.
Some
people do, but then like we talked about earlier, it creates this false expectation of like, oh, I'm this shit.
Social media apps were that space where if you made a viral app, you ended up with a big audience. And so the expectation was actually that you made something viral. If you had 10, 20, 30, 50,000 people on it, no one gives a shit.
Yeah, it's a waste at that point.
Yeah, and so I had done that back in San Francisco, built a mobile app, got to like 30, 40, 50,000 people. No one gave a shit about it. It just was not getting traction. But it's crazy, a media business with 50,000 email subscribers, that's legit. And but to get to that place, it just takes a little bit of time. I will say there are people that just have the it factor, and they can maybe like get there a little bit faster. But some people build slow, some people build long. There's many like 100 millionaires and billionaires, I think, that like really just built like a manufacturing business or something like that, where it was like, it's not like Barbie was instantly a hit sensation. It was something that they were like building over time to go build that toy. And it took maybe a decade to get to the point where Barbie was Barbie. I don't know how long it took, to be completely honest, but it wasn't something.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of business and, just kind of like life in general is really just like continually putting yourself in a position to get lucky and get the candlestick that goes like this. And it's
Yeah.
like the longer you work at it and try, you're making your chances better and better. But like, maybe you get lucky and in your first year, whatever you're doing, it goes fucking crazy. But like most of the time, it's just not going to be the case, and just takes a lot of time of putting yourself in the position to get lucky over and over.
Dude, Elon Musk's businesses, I mean, the guy has an ego, but the guy's also like wildly fucking successful. And I think like the stuff that they did with PayPal grew quickly, but it took time. The Tesla was on the verge of death, and so like didn't really like survive after. And like that's full blown manufacturing, battery optimization, everything associated with that before you even get to the AI self driving stuff. Then there's also like a rocket business where it's like, the rockets are not launching properly.
He was blowing
Which feels
up
like
rockets.
pretty important for the Rockets. Like,
Yeah.
The biography that Walter Isaacson did on him, it talks about how like he had the opportunity to say like, okay, I can save Tesla or I can save SpaceX, and he's like, I'm just gonna save both. And it's like, you can't divide your time or capital, but like he found a way to like get both through. And like maybe it was like in some gray accounting areas, like maybe we're using things that should be going like
Really?
yeah,
That was implied in the book?
it's in the biography.
Interesting.
It talks about, I could be misremembering the exact specifics, but it was something along the lines of maybe money for the Tesla Roadsters that was like the down payment for the Tesla Roadsters that should have went toward manufacturing the cars, like needed to be used to pay employees, or there was not going to be any cars.
Yeah.
So there were like certain things where it was like, okay, maybe the money that we got to do this one thing, like we need to do something else, because if we don't do that thing, then we can't do the thing they paid us the money for.
That's not just accounting. That's just straight up like gambling with people's money, basically.
But it worked. So like,
That's SBF shit.
Yeah.
but like when that stuff works, like SBF
when it works, you're a
was-
hero.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, when it
SBF
works.
would have been a hero.
You're
also.
the fucking man.
if SBF just like didn't have a spreadsheet and a system that allowed accounts to go net zero balance or negative, like I think it would have been fine. Like no matter what they were using those funds for, but the fact that like there's some accounts that just can like lose infinitely but never lose, and then it creates a whole can of worms. But like he was pretty close to just being a fucking hero. Yeah. Like it's pretty gray. Like when you go back and I talk about acquired and founders, but when you listen to like these older people, I don't know, like fucking the Morgans, like Jay Gold is a good one because he's kind of like looked at sometimes through like a negative lens, but they did what they could do within the game they were playing, and like it if they win, they get the right history and be like, I'm gonna put my name on a fucking museum, I'm gonna put my name on the medical center, I'm gonna put my name on the university.
My life's goal.
Yeah.
To be on a medical center.
Nifty Portal Medical Center.
Or Nick O'Neill.
Oh, dude, it's gonna be my name.
What's the medical center focusing on? Is it like colonoscopies?
I think cancer.
Cancer.
Yeah.
That's what Lex Wessner did in Columbus, Ohio. This guy from L Brands, he's on like Epstein's list. He's like, he should be dead, but he isn't. You look at him and you're like, yeah, you probably have like less than 10 years left. This dude's name is on every fucking building in Columbus. It's like, oh, that's the Wexner Medical Center. Oh, that's the Wexner School of Arts. And you look at it and you're like, this dude like made his money through like Victoria's Secret and like, women and like hanging around with Epstein and like doesn't matter. His name
Put his name on something else.
Speaking of the
what else
Epstein
can
stuff,
he give us money for? Like, fuck it, I'm gonna name my house the Wexner House because
I
he
saw
bought
something
it.
on Twitter today about a new development with the Epstein stuff about Al Gore, where he was so some new woman was deposed and talking about it, and basically what she said about Al Gore was he would go there with his wife and just scuba dive, and she was like, he wasn't like fucking anyone. He would just come with his wife and just seemed like a guy who really
And maybe
loved his
Les was
wife
doing that
and
too.
wanted to scuba dive.
Maybe the guy who founded Victoria's Secret and who's made all his money off taking pictures
was
of
like,
hot girls wearing
"Yeah, I
no
would've
clothes.
voted
Like maybe
for
that's
him."
what he was doing.
That sucks so bad for Al Gore, who just was like, this is great. We're just hanging out and going swimming. What's wrong with this? It's awesome. He has no clue.
He would bring his wife.
It's like every flight, Al, you brought your wife. Like what was going on? What type of massages were you getting? It's like,
He's like, you guys don't get it. The scuba there is crazy.
there's this fucking reef and it's like right off the coast and you just go there.
He must land and he's like, wow, all these actors, they must really love scuba too. That's I didn't know there was such a big scuba community.
Al Gore's just a good guy that's clueless. You know, he's bringing the fam to Epstein. I was like, yeah, Epstein was a great guy. I don't know what the problem was. You know?
United Kingdom royalty really likes scuba. None of them are in shape. Prince fucking
ridiculous.
Charles just never seen him in the water, but he likes the island.
Yeah, but yeah, that really got me.
Oh, that's hysterical,
Yeah.
dude. I love that.
Yeah, and we're still like, I think the ramifications of all that shit might not even know for like years down the line. It's like, how much other shit are they hiding? And
Too
Dude,
much.
and did COVID really come from Epstein? You know, like those are the questions that I want to ask.
they could have killed him.
I mean, at this point, I think we know it did.
Yeah.
So it's
from
more,
the
it's
island.
more a question of how did it happen, not when.
They
or
had a
if.
lab.
Did
Yeah.
the
On
Wuhan
the
bats
island.
fly to
Yeah.
the island,
Yeah,
basically?
100%.
Yeah.
They
okay.
got the bat from that island and then flew it. To
Well,
the
because Epstein fucked the bat.
Well, I was about to say Al Gore fucked the bat, but
Someone fucked the bat. We don't know. Listen, the lights were off, everyone's eyes were closed, but someone was fucking the bat.
I feel, yeah, where do I want to bring this back to here? Like,
All right, so
I'm on
all
an
right, hold
island
on.
without
So,
a girl.
From fucking bats to
So what kind of you talked a lot about like Rob Dyrdek. What are other creatives who inspire you, whether it's in the comedic side of things or just like day to day the way they operate and stuff? Who else do you like watch to find inspiration or really look up to?
there's
Also crypto YouTubers, because you mentioned that earlier that you were watching some of them.
Pio has a bunch that he'll drop on the film side, I think. And I think that's actually relevant. I've been bigger on that more recently. Mr. Beast actually was quoted. I absorb all of Mr. Beast's like podcast interviews and everything else just because I'm fascinated by it. And also he's just so successful with, you know, how they've done production. I don't love everything that they do, but I think that, I mean, he's objectively the most successful YouTuber pretty much. And so he's one of them. I also like how he's methodical in his approach to content, which is something that really resonated with me from when I was doing content. I was focused on search engine optimization. It wasn't just let me write content that's all great. It was also let me write content that people are going to search for. And so that's how I ended up growing that audience, basically. And I think that there's every single new wave that comes about has that same thing. And I've found historically that a lot of the best performing content creators are not inspired necessarily as they're not movie makers or like it's not like a creative indie film sort of thing. They're way more focused on optimization, growth, and content for engagement of the way that MTV used to produce content. MTV had done a study. I remember it was like Viacom or who owned Nickelodeon, which kind of came up with the 3-second cut. And the 3-second cut realized that it would keep people retained with the audience. So that was something that like they figured out through this whole process, which was really just a goal to get more people to keep watching so they'd watch the ads. And that was like, so that's not driven based on how do I make the best movie? How do I tell this story most effectively? It's how do I manipulate people into watching this video for a longer period of time, even if they don't love the video. I can't stop watching the damn thing. That is a different type of creation, and I just think it's a different path, basically. Now, Mr. Beast did mention the other day that that one of the people on his team, for their thumbnail content now, they get a lot of that inspired by movies. So they'll see a scene that exists where there was a woman on a table dead, and it's shot from above, and they saw that, boom, turned immediately into a thumbnail. And so someone came up with that creative image because that shot was so powerful that they were able to convert that, because it's all about capturing the eye, so that like there's knowledge that comes from that creative element, which I think is like filmmaking, and then the knowledge that comes from social media as an algorithm that's being optimized, basically. So I think there's those two categories. The people that stand out to me that I like the most, frankly, like there's newsletters that I read. I read a lot of books, frankly, personally. Just to like get inspired by some of these things. On the content creator side, I do watch a lot of YouTubers. I don't watch all the podcasts unless it's like a clip of Mr. Beast dropping knowledge, basically. I look at the people that are targeting like 13 to 16-year-olds, honestly, that are like used to be vloggers like David Dobrik and people like that, until he got in trouble with
endangering his.
like a sexual assault
Oh,
situation
yeah, that too.
via someone in his
He's had a
network.
few.
Via his network. Yeah. Then he ran his
Fucking-
buddy into a crane. So there were a couple of things that were classic mistake.
Fucking
you know?
around with the
You know what
pads
I'm
on the
saying?
crane, like just whip the
I
back
hate
door
when that
around, and
happens.
So yeah, that was not good. There were so
we're gonna be whipping Nick around on a crane.
Casey Neistat was one because he's just an incredible content
Yes.
creator. He's a filmmaker though. There were other YouTubers like that I watch, which are Ryan Trahan is someone that does this, where he did the penny across America, going across America with a penny, or bringing it to Mr. Beast was one thing he did. There's another guy called Eric that does this. I don't love his content, but he is optimizing for YouTube, so there's a lot of inspiration that I get from that. There is that's most of it. There's podcasters that I watch, but I don't really pay attention to that. I look at the people that are making films that keep people engaged, basically, are the main thing on YouTube. That's where I find myself spending most of my time. And then sometimes I'll look at, and then I spend a ton of time with Netflix. And Netflix for me is like how they tell stories, like what the story is, why I kept clicking on that story. There's a thing called the soap opera sequence, which an email newsletter guy back in the day taught, which is how you get someone to read a 7 email newsletter sequence. Like, why do they read that? And how you use open loops that start on this episode or this series and then close it on the next one. So you'll have one that opens in 1, closes on 2, because you need that feeling of completion. One that opened on 1 that closes on 3, again, the feeling of completion, but a new one that opens up in 2. So how he uses that methodology in order to keep people engaged through things. So yeah, those are
No,
my
that's
sources.
great.
Got the whole, I mean, that was a full rundown.
So we're excited. Yeah.
I'm a big podcast guy. Podcast wise, like Rogan is one.
Yeah, 100%.
Really good one. I actually like MMA podcasts. One interesting thing about MMA podcasts, obviously I'm a fan of the sport and that's why I listen to them, but some of the fighters that are like former fighters, they're like surprisingly good podcast talents. And like one of them I kind of compare to Nick, because do you listen to a lot of podcasts?
No.
So
I mean, once in a while I do, but no, I watch the YouTube ones primarily where people are being interviewed and giving me the exact knowledge that I need.
Yeah, exactly. So Nick's not like a huge podcast person, but he's really good at podcasting. I also like interviews a lot on the finance and crypto side. I like people that talk about markets, from a place of experience. Like Joe McCann is a really good podcaster. He came on the Bitcoin show a couple times. Really enjoy having him there. I'm trying to get him on the morning show, but he's a West Coast guy.
Too
so it's
early.
Too early.
I'm barely up. Like I'm literally like taking my morning shit, and you guys are like halfway through, and I'm like. But anyway, sorry to cut you off.
Yeah, no, of
it's
course.
tough. The time is tough.
Yeah, Mike Alfred is really good. There's a few people on the kind of crypto and on the YouTube side, like our buddy Elio Trades. Yes. Like he's very, very well informed. He dives really deep on his stuff. He can talk about macro. Like seems like that's what he's like really, really passionate about. So like listening to him. But yeah, I mean that's pretty much it. Obviously, Nick pointed out the filmmaking stuff. I try to draw from different like creative mediums and stuff. And I should read more actual like physical books. I have the Rick Rubin book that the artist of BoDoggos, I don't know if he gave it to me or he either recommended. Someone gave me that book. I don't remember who. And I'm like, that's probably a pretty good one.
The Jay-Z one is good. The Jay-Z Decoded.
I read that. That's old though?
That's old, yeah.
Yeah, I read that back in the day. He's got a section on Basquiat in there. That's a sick book.
It's also crazy just hearing him break down the lyrics and the meanings of everything that went in there. And you're like, what? Holy shit. Like so much thought and like went into all those different things. I mean, also obviously rappers are verbose. Like they're articulate. They're able to, get their ideas across. But still, despite that, I did not believe there was as much thought and methodology that had gone into some of those.
Yeah, and a big part of that book that you bring up, Decoded, is that one changed the way I thought about Jay-Z, because I didn't know at that time, so this is like probably 12 years ago, this is not the Jay-Z with the literal Basquiat haircut now, where he's like going to only like Met Gala-esque events.
Rocking a crypto punk on Twitter.
Rocking a crypto punk and taking pictures with Beyonce in front of big-ass Basquiats that he owns. So it's like before this Jay-Z, it's still like, like Kanye and Jay-Z, that album, Watch the Throne. the way he frames things in that book, he's like really big on like the fact that he's an artist and like critical of people that dare suggest that rap music and hip hop music and his music is not high art, which makes a lot of sense when you look back on it now, like 12 years later. But I don't know, like if I think back 12 years ago, how big society was on hip hop at that time compared to now, you know?
That's visionary right there, basically. Like you're seeing beyond just the skill, whatever it is. Like you're seeing the art in it, and also where he uses. There's the video where he talks about who's the guy that Rick Rubin. When he like is in there, there's like a documentary style video of the recording of it.
Fade to black.
And he's talking about basically, and he's like, yeah, and Rick, was doing whatever. Like, but
he praises the Beastie Boys and Rick Rubin.
But the way that he's like picturing it basically is through the lens of an artist who's inspired by and sourcing things in those different places. Where when the output of it is, I'm selling crack. Like, obviously that's not really like, but like if you're just to simplify it down to the basics, I'm selling drugs, I'm fucking bitches, I'm selling like whatever the situation is. You don't view a level of intelligence that's there, but was there all along, which you didn't credit the same way that a skate video, when you saw the skate video and you saw the success of all the jumps, you assumed that they weren't injured 15 times in the process because they're that good. But no, they were injured 15 times in the process and they broke their legs and their arms and other shit in order to get that thing done. So you're only seeing the output and making an assessment based on that delivery, but that's the final product. You didn't see what was being cooked up along the whole way. That's also why I think like even 8 Mile, for example, that's more like the struggle, the underdog story, I think is like the biggest part of that. But it's still back to, oh wow, these people are actually like putting thought into the inspiration of the source that's leading to the creative output that they have.
I mean, the shit where Eminem is just reading the dictionary and then writing down words in a notebook, and like he still has all of that today, and like goes through it. And he's like, yeah, I was just like really liked how these two words sounded together, and it's like notebooks of words. Yeah, he's like, I'm just like reading the dictionary. Like I like that word. Like I like that word. That's like a insane amount of like focus and also just like mental capacity aimed at one very specific thing.
It's a pretty cool skill also just to be able to do that. Like, I don't know.
You have it, right?
You got it? What do you mean?
I mean, because you're a rapper now.
Okay, yeah, well, I wouldn't compare myself to Eminem.
Like, where are your journals? Like, do you have a bunch of journals with words?
Dude, it's just filled with words, man. Like, it's almost... I'm sitting on the subway basically everywhere that I go on my way to work every day. And I'm just sitting down there, it's like a 45-minute subway. And I'm just sitting there, reading I use the dictionary on my phone, obviously. And then I write down those words right there. It's a tough struggle every single day.
I bet while you're on the morning show, you're like thinking about dictionaries, like people are talking and you're just zoning off. Like, oh, I really like those 2 words they use. Like, let me write that down.
Yeah.
Like, pause production.
He's
like,
in the lab cooking.
Or I'm working on like African word dictionary, basically, where I'm like, yo, let me get some of that, migrate that into my raps, basically.
It's going to work well.
Alakulembe or something.
I think that's going to be huge.
I feel like one thing that I've really got to appreciate as we've sat here for the better part of 2 hours and talked is just like how deeply you think about the medium in which you create it. And it's not just like, we're funny guys, we're consistent, we do this. It's like you're thinking about every single variable, every single lever you can pull to give the audience what they want and then what you need to grow. Like that's something that I don't know. It's maybe evident to the people who listen to the show every day, but like just following on Twitter and like watching clips, it's like you get a newfound respect for how you're thinking about it through, especially some of the stuff Nick just laid out. But both of you, like, I gotta, hats off to both of you for that.
Well, thank you. And I think at the end of the day, we can always do a better job for sure. And by no means are we like the best or like the penultimate. And the stuff that we have to do for the business takes away from the craft of the creative side, So these are the things that we're trying to structure and figure out now so that there's more Sergeant of Solana,
Well, I think too, the behind the scenes stuff that Nick mentioned earlier, like just showing people like, this is how we're making the sausage. Like this is some of the meat we're taking. This is the lever we're cranking. This is the casing we're using. And like,
we've been thinking about I've been thinking about like what the best way is to present that, because there's a certain level of like competitive intelligence that not that I give a shit. Like, it's not like no one's like stealing BoDoggos. Like no one has a monopoly on content. No one has like a monopoly on brands either. So it's not like someone's going to take BoDoggos and just straight steal it. Or if they do, that's like a pretty easy like legal case. But like
They just took all the art.
it was like
Ryder rips BoDoggos.
exactly.
Hey, I hope he doesn't.
That's not a
The Ryder dogs.
exactly. Although not, I hope not in the way that he did it with Yuga. But it'll be a tough one to call us Nazis. That one's gonna be hard, but we'll see what happens.
Dude, the way you use those red and white sneakers, man, it was so fucking
It's pretty
provocative.
clearly. Well, we have characters that have the what was the Hawaiian shirts for a moment was a right wing signal.
The tiki torch. Yeah.
Exactly. So it meant that like because you wear a Hawaiian shirt, by default you like have all these values, and it's like okay, like that's just not the case. But we decided to roll with it anyways because we were just like
The Hawaiian
and
shirts
your-
are the
well,
most
'cause
vibrant
your stuff
traits.
is like really far right wing stuff, anyways. And so
it
you want
is
people
very
to know that.
very
yeah.
extreme. We're very extremist with how we approach things.
I mean,
So,
that's
yeah.
how I feel when I look at the dogs. That's why I bought 50. I was like,
They
this,
speak to me.
Yeah, this is my people.
I'm in.
They're definitely all the hate symbols that are embedded into our design.
when I
Honestly,
saw-
it was a little on the nose at some points.
When I saw
but-
the halo, I was like, man, these fuckers, they really hit this on the nose. Like, this is a demon.
Well, we do have a devil in there, which is a very risque, thing to throw out there. But we said, you know what? We're going to do it despite what the religious people have been complaining to us about. We have so many people that protest our show nowadays because of all of the controversy that's been developed. In all seriousness, no, we appreciate it. And I think on the behind the scenes thing, there is an opportunity there. We've just been thinking about like, do you show it to your like loyal holders basically and bring them in on the journey? And I think that really is probably the best path. So they feel like they're part of it and can even influence it maybe in some way. And the question is, how do you do that in a way that's responsible? That's not like, it doesn't feel cheap where they're like Azuki just rolls out like a coat or something like that. And they're like, yo, we got the gold skateboard. And that's like the thing. I don't know what, like, they didn't bring
what
me
your
behind
gold
that.
skateboard is.
What's that?
Like what your golden skateboard kind of thing is, more
Or
like
just
how they
also
did it?
like what their methodology is mystery, and a lot of NFT projects are built on mystery, including Bored Ape Yacht Club
for
originally
sure.
was built on mystery. We are the least mysterious people ever. So
You host space every
Just
day.
6 hours of content a week. Like,
Cards are on the table. We
so-
don't get any insight to like the weed smoking sesh at Zagabon, and then have like, we got skateboard Azuki's. Like, what if we just made them fucking gold? Like, we don't have that.
Well, what does that look like? It would be so insightful to be able to see. I mean, I would start buying Azuki's if I could see behind the scenes of how like some of these people are thinking through their things. That would be just incredible. But yeah, we don't have visibility to it, so instead we're just taking our approach to do it. I don't know.
For me, it's like, as somebody who takes various positions and things, it's like I kind of need to see it. Like, I don't have a lot of Azuki's, but like with Pudgy's, I thought they did a good job. They have a YouTube, like kind of behind the scenes.
Yeah.
I'd say like 8 to 13 minute type videos where it's like, oh, here's some shit we did like this week or this month. Like, here's the fucking gang going down to Art Basel. Here's like how that looked. Like, I kind of like that stuff. So it's like, oh, like there's some of the shit they're doing. And I'm not in their offices. Like, I talk to Luca on a space like once a month or so. Like, we're friendly. He texts me sometimes, sends me a bunch of shit, like super thankful. But I'm never like looking in. I'm never asking him what they're doing. But watching that YouTube thing, it's like, oh, like the ball is moving. Like, they're showing some clips with the designers who are making all the fucking memes and like sharing some like high level idea of like, okay, why are we spending so much time pushing these memes? And
That's a perk also of having that physical location, I think, is really key for that. Like, we're remote, so it's like, how do you make that work? I mean, we do have 3 people in New York right now, so we could shoot some of that stuff. It's also like they have to think through what that content is for what they're actually doing. It's like, yeah, go scribble that shit on the board real quick. Like, let's get that shot. Let's get, like, you're going to walk in and you're going to like say that, like, you almost have to like, you have to direct your work, so you have to act out work in order to do it,
And it doesn't feel
so
as
it's hard to
authentic.
be authentic in
Yeah.
that situation. Whereas like if you just recorded a meeting and got clips of it, maybe then, and I don't know how they do it, to be completely honest.
it's a lot of like more that like, I want to say like 3-second cut, but more that like faster pace. Like, I mean, they drive nice cars. Like Luca talks all the time about like how he shouldn't have bought a Rolls Royce, but like clip of them in the Rolls. Like, oh, that's interesting. I've never seen the inside of a Rolls Royce before. And then it's like cut to them walking into a thing, cut to the event, cut to people at the event dancing.
That's like fake business, basically. That's like with Instagram fake business.
Yeah, I
it's
mean,
like, I'm getting on my private jet because I got an important meeting to go to.
And, you know, the mystery of this shit, like you just alluded to it, like that, people, for whatever reason, they value the idea of what something can be and the idea of it more than like the execution. And I feel like we saw that a lot with Bored Apes. It's like there's all this idea of like what can the apes do, and we've been thinking about this for like ever since the Yuga land sale, where they made hundreds of millions of dollars. We blew hundreds of millions in Ethereum fees, and it's like, what can they do? I don't know.
Nothing. I think
We got a Dookie Dash. Like we got some heavy metal. They split my quota from the land. Now I need to like farm with this shit. Now I have responsibilities that I didn't want as a speculator. Now like I'm following the other side, which is not separate from Yuga, and then like
It's all over the place.
Very sadly, Gordon's health has kind of deteriorated a little bit, so he had to take a step back, and I think that like kind of took a lot of the energy or like the cult of personality away from it. It'd be like if one of you like stepped back. I mean, I hope you're both healthy. We'll talk about health and stuff. I know you're into fitness, and like I think you practice Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Real quick before we get to the health, I want to finalize one comment on the thing you said. It just gave me the idea because I was like, oh, this fake business. Where's Walmart based? Wherever they're based. So they're based in like somewhere in middle America, basically. We should fly there and be like, yo, we're just shooting this video. You know, we're in town in,
Nebraska.
Nebraska. You know, we're meeting with a very big company but for no big deal. But we're out here shooting content, you know, in the middle of it while we're out here. So we're gonna go shoot some stuff with the Nebraskans or whatever it is, and then you fly back, and like there's no meeting that's like going on, but you're just
That's
out
just
there.
business.
You're just that's business.
Business. Rent a private jet just so that you can act like you're getting on it and then just leave. Like,
Exactly.
don't actually use.
Don't fly.
Yeah, don't fly.
Just like drive past Teterboro Airport and get like some shots. Like pulling up to Teterboro on the PJ.
Pulling into the private jet place, like camera going by, and we're in like an expensive car rolling up to it, being like, you know, we're making big moves for BoDoggos. Anyways,
Just
go.
No,
fucking
I like it.
take Google Street View, throw it into Runway ML, make an animation out of it, and then green screen in front of it. Like you're just like, I'm here, and it's not there.
Just here.
Don't need to actually fly there. We are coming up on time. I have a question we ask everybody. Sure. It is, if you were to write an autobiography, what would the title of it be? Hopefully you haven't had that question before.
Life with a huge penis.
Yeah. That's a good one. That was quick too.
That was quick. Yeah, he's thought about that before.
No, that's not it.
I think it should be. I like that one.
I used the title to make art for the podcast episode, so like that would be a fun, very phallic vibe.
I guess mine would be Life with a Small Penis.
It's just yin and yang.
No, mine would be like Go For It. How about that?
Yeah.
Go for it.
You have Life with a huge penis.
What's that?
Yeah, Life with a huge penis.
You sticking with yours?
Dude, I don't know. It was a joke. I don't. If I had a real autobiography title, man, it's early, man. I think it's. I don't have enough information. I feel like the journey, we're so early on our own journey, and I don't mean it even like it's early for the industry, which it still kind of is. But I think it's more just like I have no idea. Like I literally could not tell you because I think the outcome that we're aiming for, there's so much more work and growth involved in that. I'm looking forward to those lessons to be able to like define it basically.
In 15 years, Nick's going to be in a bathrobe in a multi-platinum recording studio, snorting cocaine off of a thing.
Okay, I don't know
Gun
if
on the
cocaine will be
table
involved.
is a-
Oh yeah.
There's not going
And
to be coke
with his
involved.
first album out, Life with a massive penis.
I just see him with like full neck tattoos, just like
I
ready
could
to
see
rock
Nick
big
with
chain.
a full neck.
My first rap song, I got a huge dick. be like, it's been so difficult with a huge dick.
I smoke crack. I fuck bitches with my huge dick.
It's just like I speak from the heart. I speak from my life.
I speak from experience.
Well, that's definitely not going to be my autobiography title, but unless it's a work of fiction. But we'll have to see. Man, I like yours. Do you just use Nikes?
I said go for it.
Go
Yeah,
for
it's
it.
basically just do it.
You could take it, great creators.
This is a world with no copyright.
Great
in this
creators
imaginary
steal.
world autobiography.
I mean, honestly, it would be something about our life making up an entire we're now like moving into an area that we basically know nothing about, have no experience with, and we're just like, fuck it, let's do it. And I think that that's something that really is like the big thing. It's not like we know about the content, but like the whole other flip side of things when it comes to building out like what I think we think BoDoggos can be, I think is just something that like there's not a playbook. Yeah, life with no playbook. Maybe there's the book.
That's a good one right there.
Yeah.
Wow.
I like it.
All right.
Are there any things you're looking forward to in 2024, whether it is internally things you're going to do throughout the next year that you could share, or things that you're just keeping an eye out for that you're excited about, other than the presidential election, which we didn't talk about, but I'm sure you're really excited about.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm so thrilled.
I'm just hoping to go somewhere for fun. You know what I mean? Like go and just like unplug. And, like,
Yeah,
a proper
you deserve
vacation.
it.
Yeah.
like to just tell everybody like Clemente's solo hosting it this week. We're just gonna see what the fuck happens. I have a big dick. I got crack to do. I gotta go.
Chilling.
I gotta go take time in Miami.
Yeah, that's what I hope to do.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, it's going to be like scaling for us. I mean, we have most of the team that I think that's going to help with that. There's probably like maybe 2 more people on board. This year is really about, I think a return to content is going to be like, is the goal. I'd been doing software development. I've been working on operational shit. There's just so much stuff that's detracting us from doing the stuff that I think honestly is going to give us the growth that we need. And so we got to get like focused on that. So I think this year back to content in a major way is going to be really exciting. And yeah, we're going to be here for the coming years. And that's what we're structured for, is like, how do you sustain the business so that it like just continues to survive? Because that's the main name in the game here, survival.
Well, I'm excited to see more of the content. Those short form videos, they always crack me up. I always fucking love sharing them because the reactions people give are just like, what the fuck? Like, this is hilarious. But like, sometimes I love the people's first reaction of Nick. Like, my first reaction is like, oh, this is a goofball. And then like, you get to, follow you for a minute and it's like, oh, like you have a part of your personality that's a goofball and you're not afraid to embrace it. But like, there's so much more to you.
But he also has a huge dick.
A lot of people pay attention to that part.
I mean, you come for the goofball, but then you stay for the dick. And I think that's how we have to wrap it up.
Yeah. Thank you guys. This is fun.
Thank you guys.
Great way to end that episode.